Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. It's your boy D Black coming back with another SmackDown review. All right, well, SmackDown tonight, man, it was a dismal. I mean, I fell asleep on it, a lot of it and stuff. But anyway, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna get through it. Excuse me for I'm feeling a little bit down and everything, not on my best, but we're gonna get through this. All right. We start out with Rhea Ripley. She's coming out saying that she was off for a week, and then it seemed like somebody was missing her. And I'm sure that she was talking about Jay Cargill and her crew. When BFAB and Meechin took her out last week and everything and stuff. So she's a little bit feeling crazy about that and everything. And so the match was already gonna happen for Clash in Italy, but she issues a challenge to Jay Cargill. Well, Rhea issues a challenge to Jay Cargill, saying that she'll meet her in Clash in Italy, for the women's championship. And then as she's saying that, Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss come out and everything. And Charlotte is asking Rhea, where was she last week when they got jumped by Jake Cargill, B-Fab, and Meechin last week. And Rhea's talking about, hey, she took a couple of days off to go see her family and stuff like that and everything, and on and on crazy nonsense, talking and stuff like that, arguing and everything. Alexa Bliss is trying to get them, to come at all. I mean, come together and stuff like that because they will be facing, you know, Jade and B-Fab and Meechin, tomorrow night on Saturday Night Main Event and stuff. And then as they're squaggling and stuff like that, Fatal Influence comes out and stuff, and they're talking, Jesse James saying that all the female tag teams are actually trying to get crazy and stuff. They started something when they came out and everything. So I guess they're saying that they lit a fire up under the tag team since, Jesse JC Jane is saying that they're the new headliners on top and stuff. But anyway, you know, Charlotte had enough of them talking, and Charlotte said, "Hey, look, we'll face any two of you." Talking about her and Alexis and stuff, that they will face any two of the fatal influence later on, tonight in the match. Then we go with another segment. Kathy Kelly, she's talking to the MFTs, so Sikoa and everything. Um, and she's asking Tunga, what he's gonna do as far as the match that he has with Shinsuke Nakamura. And then so Sikoa tells him like, look, you know, everybody needs to watch out for what's gonna happen tonight to Solo Sikoa by Talla Tunga. The Talla Tunga is gonna rip him apart and stuff like that. And then we got Nimrod's Keys comes out, you know, um, and Rose Keys tells the MFTs and Solo Sikoa, to stay out of his business. And Solo's basically saying, hey, look, we're family and everything. And he's saying that on SmackDown, you need protection and stuff like that. And that if he comes with them, he can have all the protection that he can, handle and stuff. And then Royce Keezy just walks off. And then we get backstage Alexa telling, Charlotte Flair, that she can't go on tonight and stuff. She mentioned the fact that the doctors she's not cleared to wrestle and stuff, and then she said that her and Rhea would have to take on Fatal Influence, whoever the two are going to be and stuff from on Fatal Influence. So Charlotte said, "Oh, okay." She has to agree with it because Alexa can't go. And then we have the match with Talla Tonga against Shinsuke Nakamura. The match was okay and everything. I mean, It wasn't a great match. I don't even know why the match. Well, I mean, because I guess Shinsuke has been talking to Tunga, telling them, about the MFTs and Soul Sikoa isn't good for them, good for him and stuff like that, as leading him down the wrong path. And then Talla has actually been telling Shinsuke Nakamura to stay out of the business and everything. And so here we are with the match. The match was okay and everything. Tall Tonga did beat the heck out of doggone Shinsuke Nakamura. I mean, it was a little bit back and forth, but it was more Tall Tonga and everything. Um, and then we get Solo Sikoa. There was some confusion and everything. And Tonga actually wins the match. He puts a choke slam on Shinsuke Nakamura for the win. Then Solo gets into the match. He's gonna actually try to spike Shinsuke Nakamura, but Tonga stops him and everything. And then Tonga hits Shinsuke with his finishing move. I guess to show his loyalty. To Solo Sikoa and everything. It's pretty cool on the with them and stuff. And then Solo tells him to grab Shinsuke and everything. They set him up again, try to give him another Samoan spike. And then out comes Damian Priest. He comes out with a chair and everything. And then, the MFEs, scramble off and stuff. And then we have Cody Rhodes talking to Nick Aldis and everything, and I guess they're talking about Gunther and the contract that, he's supposed to be signing, and Cody saying that he'll get Gunther to sign the contract and stuff like that. And then Sami Zayn, he comes out, you know, talking to Nick, telling Cody, actually, he comes out and starts talking to Cody and telling Cody if he needs help, he's there for him. And Cody said, he doesn't want his help and stuff. He said, thank you, but no thanks and stuff. And then Sammy goes out and starts complaining to Nick Aldis, about things that are going on and him not, having the matches that he wanted and everything like that. And he was talking about Cody saying the Golden Boy, if he asked for a match, he would get a match. He would get anything that he want and everything while Cody was standing behind him, and then Cody comes and he tells him like, hey, if you want a match, we can go, we can do it right now. If this is what you want and everything. And so the match is made for Cody to face Sami Zayn later on tonight, in SmackDown and stuff. And then you get a segment where Tama Tonga is telling Solo Sikoa that, the people are looking at them, like they're weak and everything, because they're not a strong unit anymore like they used to be and stuff, and he tells him that he has to go out and take care of Damian Priest and stuff, And so he said, let's do it, for the family, and they shake hands and then they walk off. Then we got a little thing with Nia Jax and Lash Legend, talking about, what they're gonna do as far as Paige and Brie Bella is concerned about, tomorrow night getting their tag team titles back, and then they started, dogging out Tiffany Stratton and stuff because her and Lash was about ready to have a match. Then we get the match with Tiffany Stratton and Lash Legend and everything. And the match was okay. I mean, nah, it wasn't okay. I'm sorry. The match was horrible. It was like, it was not that good. It was messed up. So it was some missed spots and everything. It just seemed like it was just all out of kilt and stuff for this match to be an open challenge match for a U.S. title and everything. But the title really means nothing to anybody and stuff. It's just to fill a title, just to put a title on somebody and stuff because, I mean, I think this is what maybe almost 2 years in with these titles as far as the females are concerned, as far as U.S. title and the Intercontinental title for the women and stuff. But anyway, Nia Jax comes down and she gets involved and everything. And then Chelsea Green, she gets involved. She gets pulled in by Lash and everything, and has Lash, pulling her in and stuff, Tiffany Stratton comes and rolls her up and gets a pin on Lash Legend and wins the match and stuff. And here we go with another roll up and stuff, And I mean, it was crazy. The match was crazy. Made zero sense. Then you got Nick Aldis, in the room with Danhausen. He's talking to Danhausen, asking him what he's doing and stuff like that. And Danhausen's going on telling him that he's, dealing with he's doing a science project and stuff like that. And then just does what he does, disappears and stuff like that. And then we get the segment with Kathy, Miz, and Kit Wilson. They're actually talking about, the curse on them and everything. And then, the Miz said the curse is not real and stuff. And then Kit Wilson did say it was, it was real, and they were going, back and forth with that and everything. And the Fraxium comes out, and they're talking about, the same thing. And then it goes back into basketball again. And then all of a sudden it just gets into where there's a match, being challenged for them in Barcelona because Axiom said something to the Miz, and it was in Spanish, and the Miz didn't understand what he said, and he asked Kit Wilson. Kit Wilson didn't know what he said either, and stuff. But they said they opened the challenge to them in Barcelona, Spain, next week, and they told them Fraxium that they would beat them, and he was going to destroy and embarrass Axiom, in his hometown. And then we get the segment with Trick Williams with Little Yachty. I mean, it's the same thing, same old thing. Really not talking about too much of anything. Still talking about the lemon pepper steppers and stuff like that. And then Carmelo Hayes comes out and he's telling Trick Williams that, he's wanting Trick to do the right thing, because he said that Trick was the reason why he lost, his US title to Sami Zayn and everything. And then he calls him out and says that he wanted a rematch, for the US title, and they should have that match, tonight, on SmackDown. And Trick Williams, he goes and tells him, he says yes, but it's not, for the US title and everything. He said that he was going to fight Carmelo Hayes, as a courtesy fight. He said he was gonna wrestle him as a courtesy match and everything because he knows he was the cause of Carmelo Hayes losing that title. But anyway, um, they get the match and it gets started and everything. And as the match goes, I mean, it was a pretty good match, because Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams, they do have history in NXT. They have matches down there, so you thought, you knew it was going to be a pretty good match. And then all of a sudden, Ricky Saints comes out. He comes to the ring. Then he climbs onto the apron and everything as the match is going on. Carmelo Hayes knocks him off, and then when he turns around, and Trick Williams hits him with the trick shot, and down goes Carmelo Hayes, and he loses. 1, 2, 3. And then you get this weird segment, with Sami Zayn going around tearing up stuff. He all angry, talking about, him and Cody and everything. He's saying like he's trying to do the right thing and stuff like that. And now he's end up in the match with, Cody. And then there's Johnny Gargano, and he started talking to Johnny Gargano while he's laying down on the doggone crate and everything and stuff. Oh, Lord. And then I don't understand why this is happening and stuff. Just really makes zero sense. But anyway, he's talking to Johnny Gargano. Then he gets up and he leaves. And Johnny Gargano knocks down the water bottle that's sitting right next to him. You know, and then we get Ricky Saints talking to Kathy Kelly and stuff. And just as he's starting to talk, Carmelo Hayes, comes and hits him and knocks him down and tells him to stay out of his business and then walks away. And then we get the match, with Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley against Lanny Reed and Fallon Henley of the Fatal Influence. The match was okay. I mean, it was not that bad. I mean, it was okay. And then, after the match was over with and stuff, Charlotte Flair, and Rhea Ripley, they do win the match and everything. And then after they win the match, Jade, B-Fab, and Meechin come out. They attack Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley, and then Fatal Influence, they come in and join in on the attack and everything. And Jade gives Rhea the jaded, takes her out and lays her out and stuff. So I mean, and these things, I mean, we know that Jade and Rhea is going to be fighting tomorrow night. Well, they're going to be fighting at Clash and stuff. So I guess that's the setup for that and everything going into that match in about 9 days. I think that's when Clash in Italy is going to be and stuff. And then we have Solo Sikoa and Damian Priest. This match, I mean, it was okay and everything. Solo Sikoa, he gets the win due to interference from the MFTs and everything, and then after the win, the MFTs jump Damian Priest, you know, um, and they start kicking around, trying to take him out, and then Royce Keys he comes out, to help Damian Priest. Um, and then they get out of the ring, and then Royce Keys and Solo Sikoa, they face each other and they stare each other down and everything. And Tunga wants to do something, but he kind of Solo backs them off, and they get out and leaves the ring. And as they get out of the ring, then Royce Keys he goes to help Damian Priest up, and Damian Priest grabs him by the throat like he was about ready to choke slam him. And then Damian Priest gets himself separated from him and everything. He said, "Hey, look, I came out to try to help." And then Solo Sikoa said, "No, he came out to try to get you, try to attack you too." And stuff. And then that's all over it. They shut it down. And then you get backstage with Blake Monroe and Chelsea Green. And Blake Monroe is introducing herself to Chelsea Green. And Chelsea Green said, that she know her and everything. And then Blake Monroe says, yeah, she knows who she is, but she wish she hadn't never met her and stuff. And then while she's doing that, Nia Jax and Lash Legend, they attack Chelsea Green and beat her down. And they basically say the same thing, watch out, stay out of our business and stuff like that, you know. And then we get Royce Keys and then Damian Priest, and they're talking and everything. And, Royce is asking Damian why he grabbed him by the neck, and Damian is explaining to him, somebody came down and everything, and you got jumped on and everything, you fighting for your life and stuff like that. And somebody you don't see, grabs you and everything, what you're going to do. And he goes on to tell, Royce Keys that he doesn't know him or anything about him. And Royce Keys is saying that, our truth send him to watch over him. If he got in any trouble, go out and give him help and stuff like that. And Damian Priest said that, he doesn't know him, he doesn't trust him or anything like that. He didn't care if our truth sent him or not, but to stay out of his business. And then Royce Keys said, hey, if it's an issue you want, it's an issue you're gonna get. And that's for anyone. Anybody can get it. So, and that's Royce Keys, and then he walks off. Then we get the match with Sami Zayn and Cody Rhodes. This match was a pretty good match. I mean, Cody's good in the ring, Sami's good in the ring. You figure it'll be a pretty solid match and stuff like that. And then Cody has heat with Gunther, and you figure that sooner or later Gunther was going to get involved, which he did. He grabs Cody and everything and tries to put him in the chokehold. And Sami goes to he runs towards Cody, and then Cody moves, and then Sami knocks Gunther off the ropes. Off the ring, and then Cody catches Sami in the crossroads, delivers the crossroads, wins the match, and then Gunther comes in, he attacks Cody and stuff. He kind of beats Cody down um, and everything, and then he puts Cody in the sleeper hold. And Sami, comes in like he's gonna try to help, but he doesn't. He just sits there and stands there and look and stuff. And He's looking at Gunther. He's looking at Cody, and then Sami just gets out of the ring, and he just walks away. So I don't know what's going to happen with that. I believe Sami now has turned as a heel, and I kind of like heel Sami. Maybe I might start liking Sami again, as a heel, because right now what he's been doing has been very annoying. Complaining, complaining, complaining all the doggone time. And I got sick of it, and I'm sure everybody else got sick of it and stuff. But like I said, this SmackDown wasn't really great and everything. And I'm going to give it maybe a 2 out of 10 in this, out of my rating and stuff. But that's all I'm going to give it because it really wasn't that good. I went to sleep through it and stuff. It was kind of boring. It had nothing to do with anything. But anyway, please don't forget to subscribe, like, share, leave a comment, let me know how you're feeling and stuff. And thank you for watching. God bless, deuces, and I'll see you on the next video. Thank you.